how do you hold a team member accountable? Well, you can't unless you've given them very, very clear expectations. So we got to make sure that our expectations are clear. We give them all the tools they need, all the training they need, and then we got to let them do the job.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Home Service Hustle. I'm your host, Jonathan Bannister, and today I'm with a special guest, a dear friend of mine, Lyn Askin. Lyn, thank you for being here.
This is going to be fun. I'm really excited to be with you today.
All right, so a little bit about Lyn. Lyn is a certified EOS implementer. Lyn, how long's it been now?
About a year and a half, Jonathan.
Year and a half. Okay. So this wasn't always what Lyn was doing, but it has, the tides turn that way for Lyn. So Lyn is a former agency owner like myself, and got a cool story. So let's kind of start back to, you've been doing the agency life for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, technically, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I had a paper route when I was 9. I guess you grow up in a house with not a lot of money. I mean, we had a lot of love in our house, and my parents certainly gave me everything I needed. But as a kid, it's not everything that you want. And then I think that made me entrepreneurial. And so I had a lot of different jobs over the years. I had a paper out when I was 9, mobile disc jockey company in my teens, started building computers in my 20s, launched one of the first online auctions in 1995 or 96, built an e-commerce store in 97. And then at some point started building websites for other people and built a fairly successful agency over the next probably 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, you were there at the beginning of the internet and hearing that noise, the dial up and everything, right?
100% exactly what went through my head when you said I was there at the beginning. Yep.
Okay. I was dealing with floppy disk and stuff in school still when Lyn's building websites, it seems, but I look older than you. You've got this perfect hair, and I'm like losing mine, and it's all gray.
Got a lot of hair. I got lucky there.
And so about a year and a half ago, what made you make the shift?
Yeah, so I had a, as you well know, I had a fairly successful agency. I was working with a lot of home service clients like you. Probably succeeding in spite of myself. had the same challenges that every business has, though. I had maybe a lack of clear vision about who we were and who we served. Had a lack of, I don't know, probably maybe a lackluster team commitment, and I think that was probably in part to a lack of clear vision. And then, of course, we had a lack of discipline and accountability all the way to the top. And heck, I guess it's been about 4 years now, but in October of 2020, Jonathan, I was out kind of fixing up my yard after a hurricane had come through, and I collapsed in my yard, and I had a massive bilateral pulmonary embolism. And as I was laying there dying, I all I could think about, Jonathan, is like, oh my God, what kind of mess did I just leave my wife and son? My wife was going to have to go to my office, lock the door, fire the team, lose the clients, because gosh, I didn't have a business. I had a job. If your business relies on you 100%, and if you die, your business dies, man, that's a bad situation to be in. And obviously, thank God I survived, and I'm still working on the why there, but I survived that, and I just knew. I mean, this was the wake up call of all wake up calls. I knew I had to change something in my life and in my business, and I started looking around and trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do to build a business that can live on without me, and that can, that I can sort of take myself out of the day-to-day operations and be more of the visionary. And I got back on the bookshelf, and I found Traction again, and I bought the book Traction in 2014, and I read it, and I'm like, oh, that's nice, that'd be great someday. But I knew other people running the entrepreneurial operating system realized that that's what I needed in my life and in my business, and I hired a professional EOS implementer. And over the next probably year and a half, we had a pretty remarkable transformation. We 3x'd our revenue, we 7x'd our profits, we grew from 10 employees to 27. And most importantly, Jonathan, I was able to take myself out of the day-to-day operations. Every time I touched a website or every time, I was doing something that I shouldn't be doing, and I should have been working on higher level activities. And so, EOS, again, huge transformation in my business and my life, ultimately leading to a successful sale of my agency. So obviously during that process, I fell in love with the entrepreneurial operating system, or EOS, and became an EOS implementer. And I help other people, kind of have that same sort of transformation in their lives and in their businesses.
So let's dive into EOS for those out there. They're going to be listening, heard of it, don't know too much about it, or never heard of it at all. I mean, let's go to the people that have heard of it. Let's skip, go by what the heck is EOS. Like Lyn said, entrepreneur operating system. It is a type of operating system to help grow your business, hit goals, exit, be more profitable, whatever you want. Remove yourself from the business. It is a system. So let's talk about the people who know a little bit about it, have dabbled in it a little bit. What, you know, what is the first step that people that are considering using it, thinking about using it? Like, what would you say to them? Who are the right people? Like what mindset do these people need to be? Where do they need to be in their business? I mean, obviously the easy answer is like everyone should be using it. Yes. But I also, as it's probably not for everyone, especially if they're not 100% committed to it. It's not going to work like anything like software. So let's just dive in a little bit. Let's just get started and the questions will come.
Sure. So, the entrepreneurial operating system, it's a framework. It's a framework to run your business. And a lot of us start our businesses because we love doing something, whether it's HVAC or plumbing or something else. You start doing that because you're like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. And then the next thing you know, you start to grow. And then you have to figure out how to run a real business, and you got to replicate yourself, and you got to add team members, and you got to grow, and you got to scale, and you got to deal with, well, quite frankly, people and finance and processes and data and all of these other things and issues that come up in your business. And, most of us, it's not exactly what we signed up for. We have this dream of starting our own business because we're going to have all this free time and all this extra money, and we're going to have our weekends off. And for most entrepreneurs, it's not like that at all. And so the entrepreneurial operating system is a framework. And one of my good friends says that, you can run your business on guesswork or hard work, or you can run it on a framework. And EOS is kind of the framework that helps you run a better business and, quite frankly, live a better life.
I like how you said that. So you can run it on guesswork and hard work, right? Hard work and guesswork, or a framework. And nobody wants to run the business guessing and always having to pivot and making mistakes and oops and stressed out all the time, right? So let's talk through, what does that traditionally look like? You go in as an implementer. Explain to people what an implementer is, and what are those first steps of how to get this in their business.
So an EOS implementer, obviously, is somebody who's just been highly trained on the system. And most of us, probably the majority of EOS implementers, owned a business, ran a business on EOS, built and scaled and sold our businesses, fell in love with the process, and became implementers. I think that's the typical story of an EOS implementer. When you sell your business, you're like, man, what's the next step for me? And EOS is that thing that I sort of fell in love with and decided to help people do. But there's a couple of different ways, obviously, to implement EOS. You can self-implement, and if you're unsure, you're small, you just want a little taste of that. Obviously, buy the book Traction. Read, it's the manual for EOS. You can go to EOS Worldwide. You can download all of the EOS tools. It's all free to download, and you can start to put EOS in place in your business. And what EOS is a way of harmonizing all of the moving parts of your business, of all your human capital, of your people, of your processes, and all of those things. And it's not something you have to invent. It's invented. And again, It's not magic beans or silver bullets. It's simple, real world, practical tools that'll help you get more of what you want from your business. And so, when I come into a business, my job really is to help you get better at three things. And I want to make sure that we're getting better at our vision. And that's about getting 100% on the same page with where we're going and how we're going to get there. Want to help you get better at traction, and that's instilling discipline and accountability so that no matter where you look in your company, you see your team executing on your vision. And then, of course, healthy is the third part of that. I want to make sure that we build cohesive, functional, fun-loving teams that actually like to work together. And so, we find as the leadership team goes, so goes the rest of the organization. I work with leadership teams to build really, really strong teams. And, we find that entrepreneurs we're all kind of built the same way. We're used to being bombarded or dealing with 136 simultaneous issues and challenges all the time. But in EOS, we find that if we can get to the root of those, if we can strengthen 6 key components of your business, then all of those sort of 136 simultaneous issues tend to fall into place because they're really just symptoms of a real root cause.
Right.
And so we focus on 6 key components of your business. Of course, that's your vision component, your people component, your data component, your issues component, your process component, and your traction component. And we can talk about those more if you'd like to do that. But it's a really, I would say it's structured, but honestly, my job as an EOS implementer is to make EOS fit you, not make you fit EOS. I'm not trying to squeeze you in a box. We're trying to use these tools and disciplines to help you get better at your business and help you get more of what you want from your business.
I love it. So let's dive into the 6 pieces. Because you say data can mean a lot of things. You say traction, So let's just talk about the 6, and so people out there understand.
All right. Number one, let's talk about number one. Is vision. We got to make sure that you and your leadership team are 100% on the same page with where you're going and how you're going to get there. And we do that by answering 8 simple questions. And so, number one, what are your core values? Number 2, what is your core focus? Number 3, what is your core target or 10-year target? Then we build out your marketing strategy. We build out your 3-year picture. We want to know exactly what your business is going to look like 3 years from now. We build out a 1-year plan. And then, of course, we build out your rocks, which are your biggest priorities for the next 90 days. And then we start building an issues list. And these are the things that are holding you back or pissing you off or just preventing you from gaining traction in your business. And from there, we have to make sure that vision is being shared by all. So we help you kind of share that vision with your entire team.
Now let's stop there 1 second.
Mhm.
Let's talk about, and I know different organizations, different sizes, set up different ways. There's gonna be different answers to this, but let's just take the average size business, right? Whether it's agencies that you work with or an air conditioning company that's under 20 people, probably only have 3 maybe managers and stuff like that. So when you share, who do you primarily see sitting in this core strategy session, and then how does it get passed on to the team?
Well, we want to make sure that we build the leadership team, and we kind of believe that every business has at least 3 kind of core functions. We've got sales and marketing, we've got operations or delivery, and we've got finance, admin, HR.
Okay.
Now, for each business that we go into, we customize it for you. I'm not going to force my accountability chart on you. We're going to build a real accountability chart. We're going to map out kind of the leadership level based on the major functions or the core functions of your business. Now, above that, we believe that there's an integrator and possibly a visionary above those people who the integrator is the person who sort of harmonizes or orchestrates how that leadership team works together. And then, of course, the visionary is the big idea guy, the guy that comes to every meeting with hundreds of ideas and really, really good at big relationships, kind of responsible for the company's vision, maybe not so great at getting in the trenches, maybe not so great at having tough conversations and that sort of thing. So that job is better set for the integrator. And so, again, we customize this for each company, but that's kind of the basis or the core of how we build out a leadership team.
So you said accountability chart a couple times just now. So explain to everyone the difference between accountability chart and an org chart.
Perfect.
A lot of people try to get those two confused, and they're not the same.
Yeah, in my, crazy head here, an org chart is what your business looks like now. And it's just a list of people that are in your organization. Here's the organization, here's the structure. Accountability chart is different. Accountability chart is, well, one, we're going to build this for what your company needs to look like 6 to 12 months from now. We are going to make sure that, and I guess the major difference is when we build an accountability chart, only one person can be accountable for each seat, because when two or more people are accountable, then nobody's accountable. And in each seat, we're also going to map out the roles and responsibilities of each seat on your accountability chart, so that the person that owns that seat knows what they need to be working on, or thinking about, or eating and sleeping and dreaming about 99% of the time. And so I guess that's kind of the difference between the two is accountability charts, future looking. In each seat is, you got to take extreme ownership of these seats, and you got to be accountable for that seat and the role and responsibility in it.
What I love there, and I want everyone to understand, if you're a visual person, we'll edit it in and throw the visuals in. But on the organizational chart, there's one person assigned to that specific position in the company, and that's what it's showing. But on the accountability chart, you may have the same name in multiple places. I mean, I've actually seen the same person on 4 or 5 different, seats on the accountability chart. And so as long as, like Lyn was saying, that there can't be multiple people there, because we got to understand somebody's got to own those roles and responsibilities of that particular place on the accountability chart, right?
I think it's really eye-opening when we do the exercise, when we sit down with leadership teams and we build out the actual functions of the business. Say, okay, we're doing sales, we're doing marketing, we're doing operations and delivery, we're doing customer service, we're doing finance, we're doing HR, we're doing admin. And then we start putting the names in the boxes, and you as the visionary start to see your name in like 5 or 6 different boxes. It's eye-opening. It's and then one of the questions we ask is, hey, do you have enough time in the day to do your job well? And if you're in 5 or 6 boxes, the answer to that's no. And so we want to build a great leadership team around you. We want to build and scale your business. And this is the first step, is kind of mapping out what this company needs to look like 6 to 12 months from now.
I love it. All right, so let's go to the next step.
Okay. So vision. Let's go to people. The truth is, you can't execute on a great vision without great people. It's pretty simple. And in EOS, we talk about people. We talk about them as the right people in the right seats. And those are two different things. Now, what are right people? Right people are people who fit your core values. These are people you want to be around. These are people that you just love, and they just exemplify everything that we stand for at our company. These are the people that if you could clone them, and if you had 100 of them, you could take over the world. Okay, and that's right people. We've got to make sure that we have the right people, but we also have to have them in the right seats. And right seats are people who are great at their job. These are people who have God-given talent and skills, and the ability to learn positions, and they get it, they want it, and they have capacity to do that role. And then, so when we build out that accountability chart, we build it with no people in mind. We're just like, what's this company need to look like? And then we start figuring out how to put the right people in the right seats. And wherever we don't have a right person, right seat, that goes on our issues list, and it's something that we deal with. And so there's a compartment for everything in EOS. So right people, right seats, you got to have both.
How big of a, with the data that you now have of the companies you've worked with over the last year and a half, and I know you and I've experienced this in our own agencies, our own businesses, but how often is the wrong person in the wrong seat, and the business owner just can't see it, don't want to see it, will do anything to try to put, slap some kind of, mask on to say it's not real. This person's been here 20 years, and, they understand it, and they just don't understand. And for me, I see this visual. I don't remember if it was What the Heck is EOS or Traction, but it's right in the very front of the book. But it gives this, because I'm a visual person. So when I'm reading the book, I still see the visions in my head. And it talks about like rowing a boat, and having a team of people. So I see the old Viking ships, the big wooden Viking ships where you see the people in there rowing, and it talks about if there's one person, there may be 50 people rowing, but if one person is rowing the wrong direction, eventually the boat's going to get off course.
Yeah.
And it may take a very long time over a great amount of distance because it may only be moving like the tiniest little bit. But if you have this certain destination you're trying to get to, and one person's rowing off, like you're eventually going to miss your target. Right. And so how big of a problem? Because I've struggled with this. I've struggled with making every excuse in the book that the person's right and the person's wrong.
So there's a couple of things I want to address there. One, we got to make sure everybody's rowing in the same direction, hopefully on the same cadence. And we got to have a system that'll help us get those people in the back that are rowing the opposite direction. We got to get them off the boat.
Right.
But number two, there's a couple of people issues that you're going to run into. You might have a right person in a wrong seat. So that's the person that you love them and they're great. Maybe they're just in the wrong seat in your company. And luckily for most of us, we got a lot of seats. Maybe we can move them around. Maybe we can move them into a spot that they can, more consistently be excellent at their jobs. Right. But if you can't, Jonathan, I'm going to urge you guys to make a change because, we can't keep people around just because we love them. That's nice, but we are a for-profit business. We can't be one of those accidental nonprofits. And we have to be a for-profit business, and we'll have to make a change.
We laugh at that, but I mean, that's like, there's a lot of companies out there that are accidental nonprofit companies. They don't even realize it. They don't, and they've got people on their team that because they think they're good people, like they're okay with continuing to pay them, but they also have this goal where they're trying to get to, and they just can't make the connection that, these 3 or 4 people over here are rock stars, but when you've got all this dead weight, like it doesn't equal out. And eventually those rock stars will start to either move on or fall right back in and get poisoned, with the rest of the bad team.
Yeah, I mean, jumping ahead just a little bit. I mean, on most teams, I think this comes from maybe Jim Collins, Good to Great. He talks about how on a team of 100, 20% of your people are rock stars. You got 70% of your people who are just punching a time clock, who just they're doing their job. That's great, and then you've got 10% that are kind of your problem children.
Yeah.
And, where as managers do we tend to spend most of our time? Well, we spend it on the problem children. And if you do that, your 20% at the top will get resentful. If you're not really, really nurturing them, helping them grow, they'll leave. There's nothing more painful than losing a top, 20% or a rock star kind of team member. And if you don't deal with the 10% at the bottom, the top 20% will also leave because they don't understand why those people at the bottom are not being held accountable the way they are, or why they're not doing the work the way they are. And I don't know, you look like a poor leader. But the second piece of right person, right seat is right seat. Now, you might have somebody who's, and again, I talked about right person, wrong seat. We're going to move that person into a better seat and help them. We like them. We want to put them in the right place. But you might have a wrong person, right seat. Now, we all know that person. That's the person who's, hey, they're good at their job and they're hitting their sales numbers. They're doing well, but man, are they just chipping away at us? They're in every meeting. They're just negative, and they're not buying in, and they're just causing chaos. I'll urge you to make a change on that person much, much quicker, because that person is toxic. That person is going to hurt you long-term more than you can even measure. And so we got to make sure that we're getting the right people in the right seats. You can have and need to have both.
100% agreed.
Yeah.
It's hard to truly, I think, know that unless you've got some tracking testing model in place, that EOS allows. Because if you don't have it very black and white, it's hard for certain business owners to want to pull that trigger. They can make up every excuse in the book of why they should keep that person. And a lot of times it comes down, what I've experienced and what I've talked to other business owners about, it's they've put so much into this wrong person. So they feel like, well, if I get rid of this person, life will get worse for me. I already don't have a life. I already feel like I can't take 2 weeks off without my business running on its own. But if I got rid of this person, I definitely couldn't do it. Like everything, the wheels are going to, and that's not the case. It's like you're holding on to something that's poisonous at this point.
No, I've had team members who were wrong person, maybe even wrong seat, that I just kept on the team for years, and eventually, when I made a change, the rest of the team came to me and said, "Gosh, what took you so long?" Like they can all see it. They can all see it even when you can't. And EOS, I'm going to give you the tools. We have 4 different ways to hold team members accountable. And I'm going to give you the tools to hold your team accountable and to be able to measure with real facts and figures and numbers whether or not people are doing a great job. And now the other piece that I want to talk to you about is a lot of entrepreneurs come to me and say, "Lyn, I can't wait for you to hold my team accountable." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm coming for you." Like, when we talk about accountability in EOS, we talk about leadership, management, accountability, but that's a math formula. Leadership plus management equals accountability. So I'm going to build great leaders. I'm going to build great managers. And the byproduct of that is great accountability from your team.
Right.
So when you have a team member that's not being accountable and they're not doing their work, sometimes we got to look in the mirror.
Yep. And it's funny you say that, because I think it's probably to some extent a red flag for you. And then you got to start doing some digging and due diligence on your part. But for a business owner to say, "I can't wait for you to get here to start holding my team accountable," like, well, no, that's your job as a business owner. Right. And so I know with us, I've experienced, little things like getting reviews from customers. I'll never forget, former client. All right. I think I upset him and hurt his feelings one day when we've got the check-in and review software, and it's like, you do it out in the field. You're at a different city or location. We deal with service-based companies. So the software allows them to do a check-in and take a photo and get a review from that customer in that city. Well, I'm at this former client of mine's office location in Memphis, Tennessee. And he looks at me. He's like, "Yeah, I just cannot get my guys to consistently use the software. I've got like 1 or 2 that are real good at it, do it every time." And so I'll never forget, I'm sitting there in his office and there was this like window that went out to the warehouse and I could see guys out in the warehouse. And I looked at him, I said, "Hey, why?" I said, what are those guys out there wearing? The ones right there I see. And he was like, "Well, that's their uniform." And they were nice uniforms. I was like, "Man, those are nice." He's like, "Yeah, we just got these new shirts. They got the patches stitched on and this and that." And I was like, "Yeah, and those hats are nice too." I said, "They both have your company brand and stuff on." He's like, "Yeah, those are our company uniform." I said, "Okay." I said, "But why are they wearing that?" He was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, we're in Memphis Grizzly basketball territory. Why aren't they wearing basketball jerseys right now?" And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, that's what I think about you right now when you're telling me that you can't get the guys to do part of their job. So if they have to wear your uniform, but they don't have to go do something else that's going to move your business forward or help you in some kind of way." I'm like, I'm not here to be your business coach. Right? I'm here to do your digital marketing. I'm telling you this is going to make an impact. You're telling me they have to wear that shirt and hat, but they don't have to do this. You need to look in the mirror. Now he's a former client, right? But some people don't want to be told that it's their fault. I'm at a place in my life where I want more people to tell me that I'm doing things wrong and let me reflect and try to grow and fix that. But if you've got this ego about you that it's not ever your fault. I think there was a quote I saw the other day that said, like, you can't fix, what was it? If you don't own it, you can't fix it. I had a guy on a podcast on that. And and that I was sitting there thinking, like, how do you fix a problem if you can't own that you are the problem, or you're at least responsible in some extent? And guess what? If there's a problem in your business, like, the buck stops with the person who writes the checks and the business license is under.
Yeah, I think And again, we're going to give you the tools. We're going to give you the discipline. We're going to help you do this. One of my favorite compliments, I guess, I've ever gotten, or feedback I've ever gotten from a client, they said, "Lyn, I love how tough you are on us, but you do it with empathy and grace." And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what I bring to the table. I'm going to help you get the business that you've always dreamed of. I am going to challenge you because, quite frankly, you didn't hire me to make you mediocre. You hired me to make you great. I'm going to make you great, but I'm going to do it with empathy. I'm going to do it with grace, and I'm going to do it with skill and that sort of thing. So, um, I think it's really important that, well, quite frankly, like, how do you hold a team member accountable? Well, you can't unless you've given them very, very clear expectations. So we got to make sure that our expectations are clear. We give them all the tools they need, all the training they need, and then we got to let them do the job, right? So uh, that's kind of the people component. We
Okay.
use a couple of tools there. We have the accountability chart. We have something called the people analyzer, where we look at each person every quarter, and we make sure that they're living our core values first, and that they also get it, they want it, and they have capacity to do the job.
What is your definition of the has the capacity? Is that more on the business owner, making sure that they're giving them the tools and stuff to do their job?
So capacity is only partially a time thing. It's not really a time thing when I'm talking about, are they good at their role. Um, I think about capacity this way: do they have the mind for it? Do they have the heart for it? And sometimes, do they have the stomach for it? Right? Do they have the capacity to do this role? And so, one way to think of this is, let's imagine we were hiring an ER doctor, inner city ER doctor for Friday night shift.
Okay.
And so we have this candidate in front of us, and we like, okay, does he get it? Well, yeah, he's graduated medical school. He's a doctor. He gets it. Does he want it? Well, yeah, since he was 4 years old, he wanted to be a doctor. Does he have the capacity to do it? Well, it says on his sheet here that he faints at the sight of blood. So he might want it. He might get it. He just might not have the capacity to do it. In the trades, there's physical strength required to do some of these jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And so, do they have the capacity to do this particular job? Yes or no? Now, they got to have the head for it, the heart for it, and the stomach for it. Also, the strength and stuff for it too.
All right, let's go to the next one.
All right. So we're going to go from vision to people. We're going to move over to the data component.
Okay.
I want to help you run your business on real facts and figures and numbers, not subjective emotions that so often drive decision-making in entrepreneurial companies. I want to give you the tools and disciplines to know if we're on track or off track every single week. We're going to build a great scorecard. We're going to have a handful of numbers that tells us, quite frankly, is our sales department having a good week or a bad week? Is our marketing department having a good week or a bad week? Is our operations team having a good week or a bad week? Are we having a good week or bad week in finance? Good week, bad week. Are our customers happy? Are our employees happy? We're going to build a great scorecard that will help you get a real pulse on your business. In addition to that, we're going to make sure that everybody in our team has some sort of metric or KPI that they're responsible for on a weekly basis, so they feel like they're part of helping build this company. So that's really the data component.
Okay. Let's move on.
All right. So the next component we call your issues component. When your vision component is strong and your people component is strong and your data component is strong, your business is going to become transparent. And those challenges, obstacles, imperfections, problems, those are going to start to jump out at us. And so we've got to be really, really good at solving problems as they arise, not wrapping them up in duct tape and twine and shoving them in a corner. So we got to make sure that we have a place that we can take all of those issues. And we want to build a culture in your team that everybody's willing to raise their hand and say, hey, we've got a problem here, or we've got something that I'd like to fix, or here's a thing that could be better. And so we have this issues list that we look at every single week. We prioritize them, and then we start to dig in, and we teach you and your team to be really, really good at solving those problems. Jonathan, is is when Gino created this system, he saw a difference between two different kinds of companies. He saw this, that sort of this 5% of companies that were doing really well, and this 95% where their owners and leadership teams were working their tails off. They're kind of spinning their wheels and not making progress. Now, the 5% owners and leadership teams were also kind of working their tails off, because that's kind of what we do. But they were moving forward, and they were making progress. And the difference between those two companies is the 5%, they solve their issues at the root and make them go away forever, and they get to move on to new issues. The issues never stop. I mean, we're just gonna get better issues, and we're gonna get bigger issues, and we're gonna get different issues. But as humans, we need to progress. That 95% of the companies I'm talking about, they deal with the same issues over and over and over and over again in what we call the worst case of business deja vu ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to teach our teams to be really good at taking a look at what's on the issues list. What's written there is usually just a symptom, and we got to dig down deep into it and figure out what's really causing this. And so I challenge my teams all the time, and they're like, "Oh, well, here's the problem," and I go, "Yeah, but why?" And they go, "Well, because of this." "Yes, but why?" "Well, because of this." I'm like, "Well, but why? Why is that happening? Why? And we get to the bottom of why it's really happening. And if we can solve it there, now we've solved it forever. Now we get to move on to better issues. So I'm going to make you and your leadership team great at this.
I think the issues component was the biggest eye-awakening thing for us, like to be able to see different people within the company, having to bring the issues to the surface level, and then us having that open discussion about it, and then putting those in an order of importance, and then an action plan of we got 7 to 10 days to fix these, right? And so I think before it was maybe that 95% you're talking about, that horrible deja vu. Like, I got a little nauseous when you were talking about it, because it's, if you don't have a system in place to bring the issues, resolve the issues, and really it's like a once and for all, like, because you're going to fix the problem to where it doesn't continue to be one. But when you're just people that are just running the business, it's like, problem comes up, go fix it. Oh, this broke, go fix it. But like, they're not fixing it. They're not finding the root of the problem. They're just putting a Band-Aid, bunch of pieces of tape, on these water leaks that are taking place all over the place. So I think that I just, that's been huge for us. The issues part of it, acknowledging that there's a problem, hearing it from other people that are actually dealing with those problems, and then finding a solution to fix the problem.
Yeah, you got to have a mechanism in place to actually take that problem and get it solved. Look, I'm guilty of this in my past. I'd have a team member come to me and go, "Hey, Lyn, we got this thing." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm too busy." And I'd wrap it up in duct tape and twine, and I'd shove it in the corner.
Yep.
And then somebody else would bring another one, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm too busy. I'll get to that soon." And I'd wrap it up in duct tape and twine and shove it in the corner. And eventually my business was just being held together with duct tape and twine. And what happens when a team member brings you a problem and you don't do anything about it? Yeah, they'll eventually just stop telling you. Like, guess he doesn't, he's never going to do anything about it. And so we got to have a mechanism, one, that the team will bring the problems to us, but two, we've got to be really, really good at taking those, putting them in a trusted system, and then having a way to kind of tackle that problem and solve it. Then, of course, it could come back. Maybe we solved it wrong, but we still got a mechanism in place to tackle it again when it comes up.
Mm-hmm. All right. So which ones have we done so far? We've done
vision, we've done people, we've done data. Now we've moved on to issues. Let's move on to process.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so the process component in EOS is about just realizing that we just have a handful of core processes. How we go out and do sales, how we market, how we bring people in and capture them as leads or prospects, turn them into clients. We've got some processes around how we deliver our product or service. We've got some processes about how we hire or fire, how we collect money, and those sort of things. Most people when they go to systemize their business, they overthink it, and they try to systemize this stuff to 100%. And what you end up with is a 700-page SOP manual that nobody ever looks at.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to help you get really, really good at figuring out what your core processes are. What I mean by that is, what are the handful of processes that we have to get right every single time? What are the handful of processes that no matter who touches them, they do them in the right way and the best way every time? And then we take those processes and we document them at a kind of a 20/80 level, I guess I'd say. What are the 20% of the steps that get us 80% of the results?
Yeah.
Right. And then and from there, again, we got to make sure that we get those core processes documented. The second part of that is that they're being followed by all. So we got to have a training system. We got to have a system to train the people. We got to be able to check in on them and review them, and then we got to be able to update those, and we got to do leadership, management, accountability with those people to make sure that those processes are being done the right way and the best way every single time.
And it makes sense, right? It should make sense to everyone, but it's without some type of system. I really feel like it's so hard to make that something that you can implement in your company, right? Everybody's going to have some type of manual or some kind of policy and procedure book, but if it doesn't make sense to the team, if you don't know how to train it, if you don't know how to hold people accountable to it, it's a 700-page manual that's, you can start a fire with, and that's about the best usage for it.
Yeah. Okay. So everything about EOS is really designed to simplify, right? We don't want to overcomplicate anything. It's the first leadership ability that we teach you in EOS is the ability to simplify. And so we're going to simplify everything in this business.
All right, let's go.
All right, let's move on to the traction component. Now, in the EOS model, I don't have a visual here, but vision is at the top and traction is at the bottom, and it's not a coincidence, because we've got to figure out how to bring that vision down to the ground and execute on it with discipline and accountability. And we like to say in EOS, vision without traction is hallucination. Okay, most entrepreneurial vision goes unrealized because of a weakness in the traction component. And this is about that discipline and accountability and having a system to get the work done. And so there's a couple of pieces of the traction component. The first is what we call rocks. Now, rocks are quite simply, they're just our biggest business priorities for the next 90 days. We want to build something in your company. We call it the 90-day world. And essentially we're going to get together every 90 days and we're going to come up with a great plan. We're going to decide our 3 to 7 biggest priorities, and we're going to go out and execute on that in our business for the next 90 days. 90 days later, we're going to come back. We're going to review our goals, and we're going to check our metrics. We're going to see if we hit our numbers, revenue, profit measurables. We're going to see if we got our rocks done, and we're going to learn from that. Then we're going to review our VTO. We're going to get back on the same page, because sometimes we're not. It's human nature to sort of like lose track of something after about 90 days. It's tough to keep a focus. So we get back together, make sure we're all on the same page again. We create another great plan for the next 90 days. And then within that 90 days, we have what we call our level 10 meeting pulse. And this is where we have one great leadership team meeting every week, where we're sort of trying to eliminate that procrastination model, where if I set a goal or a project that's due 90 days from now, when's the activity usually get done? Right at the end, right? Mm-hmm. And so we put a system in place where weekly we're checking on all of the most important things in our business. We're going to get together. We're going to have a level 10 meeting. We're going to have a little segue where we share some good news. We're going to check in on the most important things in our business, which are our rocks, our biggest business priorities. We're going to check with each team member and say, hey, are you on track or off track with that big project you're working on? We're going to look at your scorecards to make sure that we're operating our business well as it stands today. We're gonna do check in on our customers. So we're gonna do customer employee headlines. We're gonna inject a little sort of to-do list kind of accountability into this meeting, and then we are going to spend the next 60 minutes of that meeting IDSing, which is identifying, discussing, and solving the biggest challenges that we have in our business this week. And of course, we wrap up that meeting. There's some interesting things about that meeting. It's the same day every week. It's the same time every week. It starts on time, ends on time, has the same exact agenda. And so, with 5 minutes left to go in the meeting, we wrap up. We make sure that everybody's clear on their to-dos for the week. We see if there's any messages or cascading messages that need to go out to the rest of the team. And then, of course, we rate the meeting on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best. That's why we call it the level 10 meeting, because we're going to take those typical meetings you have, the ones that suck and everybody hates, that you would rate maybe a 3 or 4. We're going to turn your meetings into 10s.
So let's talk about, I think everyone kind of understands what a rock is, like as far as a goal, right? Like Lyn was saying, it's the goals we want to achieve in the next 90 days. Give some people some examples of what typical rocks could be or should be, and what maybe they shouldn't be as well.
Well, let me talk about the concept of rocks first. So the concept of rocks really came from kind of Stephen Covey. It was popularized in the business world by Vern Harnish. But Stephen Covey did this presentation where he had a glass cylinder on the table, and he said, this glass cylinder represents your available time. Next to it was a pile of rocks, a pile of pebbles, and a pile of sand, and a glass of water. So the rocks represent the most important things in your life or in your business. The pebbles represent kind of the distraction, the sand, everything else. Okay. And so if you put those things in your available time in the wrong order, if you put the sand first, then the pebbles, then the rocks won't fit. So we've got to make sure that we're focused on the most important things in our business. So if we put the rocks in, and then we do the pebbles, and the pebbles will filter in around the rocks, and then we can pour the sand in, it'll filter in around the pebbles, and then we can even pour that glass of water in. It'll all fit. So all that really means is we've got to prioritize, and we've got to focus, and we got to focus on the most important things in our business. Now, what do rocks look like? Well, they're different for every business. It could be, launch the new program that we have, or create a new system, or it could be a new hire. It could be whatever it is for you, whatever the most important things are in your business this quarter, that's your rocks. The top 3 to 7 are your company rocks. And we may create individual rocks for more people on the team to help them feel like they're doing something to move the business forward. But basically we get together, we brainstorm all of the challenges, obstacles, things you might want to do, plans you have. And then as a team, we sit down and we prioritize. Again, the top 3 to 7 are the most important, and those are our rocks for the quarter.
And so do you typically, so people understand, like a lot of people in business, they have this big company meeting, yearly meeting, like here's our goals for, 2025. Then, 12 months is a long time. Things get lost. The excitement fades away. Is that the premise behind breaking the year up in 90-day segments? And then is some of the yearly goals going to be some of the rocks that'll happen quarterly?
Yeah, one of the things that we didn't touch on completely is when we build your vision and we talk about your 10-year target, or it could be a 5-year target, it could be a 7-year target. It's kind of the North Star guiding light of where we're going. Then we got to break that down. We're going to create a 3-year picture, and we're going to design exactly what your company looks like just 3 years from now. We want to know exactly, and we're going to picture it. We're going to say, hey, if that's where we have to be in 10 years, well, this is where I think we need to be in 3. This is how many team members we're going to have. This is how many offices. This is how many trucks. This is how many locations. And we're going to build that out. We're going to visualize it, because if we can see it as a team, the odds of us achieving it are just significantly greater. Then we're going to take that 3-year picture and we're going to break it down into a 1-year plan. Okay. If we got to be there in 3, where do we have to be by the end of this year? Right. And so we're going to set some goals for the end of the year. And then we're going to say, all right, if that's where we have to be in 1, what do we got to get done in the next 90 days that moves us closer to those targets? And so it all kind of, it's hard to kind of explain the matrix here, and but eventually you'll kind of see those 1s and 0s, and you'll understand the whole concept. But the idea is, most entrepreneurial teams, even if we get together and we have a great plan and we're super motivated, 90 days from now the rope's going to fray, and we're going to be frazzled, and we're going to lose track of what we were really focused on. So we get together every 90 days and we realign, and we make sure that we're all still on the same page. And sometimes we're not. Sometimes we go, oh, things change or goals change or whatever. But we have systems for that to help you really, really understand what your plan is for the next 90 days.
So what would be, some final words that you would tell a business owner out there that's kind of been on that hamster wheel um, in their business, and they think it's a sales problem, they think it's an operations problem, they think it's this problem, but they don't have a true system in place to run their business, to really be able to gauge, here's where you're missing the mark, here's who you need to hire, here's who you need to fire. So what do you tell someone who's just kind of on the fence right now? And what does that look like when they get this really dialed in?
So for somebody like this, I think you need to look into the EOS system. Certainly, I think you can read the book Traction. There's another book called Get a Grip that I think is really great for somebody who's more of a visual learner, or maybe not. You don't want to read a manual. You want to hear the story of EOS. Get a Grip's a great story of EOS. But look, if you want to build a better business and build a better life, and you're willing to be open and honest and vulnerable with the people around you, and you want to build a great leadership team, and you're tired of the status quo, you got to be more afraid of the status quo than you do of real growth and change, because we're going to fundamentally change the way you operate your business. I would say that jump on a quick call. Let's just talk about EOS and how EOS might work for you. We do what's called a 90-minute meeting. So jump on a quick call. We'll just talk about that. We'll see if EOS sort of makes sense. And what we'll do is I'll bring in like my outside voice, right? There's something really, really powerful about somebody else bringing this idea to the team. Because if it's you, then it's like, oh God, here goes Jonathan again with another big idea. Like,
Yeah.
what's he having us do now? And I can come in and I can sit with your leadership team, and I basically I'm gonna do 4 very important things in the 90-minute meeting. I'm gonna learn about you. You're gonna learn about me. I'm gonna open up the EOS fire hose, and I'm gonna go deep on all of the 6 key components and all the tools and disciplines that we use. And then I'm gonna show you the process about what it's like to actually work with an EOS implementer. And at the end of that, you guys get to decide, is this for us? One, is this the right time for us to do it? 2, is Lyn the right implementer for us? Because if I'm not, I know hundreds of other implementers. I can connect you to the right person that's just right for you, because I want you to have the implementer that's the great fit for you.
You won't find one with better hair. You won't find one with better hair. I just want everybody.
Yeah, that's
a little disclosure in there.
Yeah, I will flip my hair a little in session, so if that annoys you, I may I may have to hook you up with somebody else. And then, of course, we got to make sure that we're willing to commit to this, because it is a commitment, emotionally, mentally. It's a commitment in changing the way that you operate your business. Again, there's no contract, there's no engagement letter. We're session by session and things like that. And so there's very little risk for you, and my session fee is guaranteed. If at the end of the session you didn't get value from our session, don't pay me.
It's a pretty strong guarantee.
That's a pretty strong guarantee.
If you're struggling with challenges in your business, how do you not take Lyn up on that offer? So how's everyone going to reach you? Obviously, we'll drop it in emails and stuff, but what's the best way people can reach you and get to know Lyn a little better?
Yeah, I'll give you some links for the show notes, but I have a pretty uncommon name. I think I'm the only Lyn Askin on the planet, if you spell it right, Lynaskin. If you stick that in any one of the search engines, you'll land on one of my socials, either LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. You can message me on any of those.
Okay.
You can send an email to me at lyn.askin@eosworldwide.com. And again, you can contact me on any of those. We'll make sure you have a way to get a hold of me.
Absolutely.
On the show notes. You can visit me at lynaskin.com, and there's a place there that you can schedule an appointment.
Well, Lyn, this has truly been a pleasure for me, because you're a dear friend of me. And, so getting to catch up with you and see you and spend this much time with you is awesome. But the value that you were able to deliver today, I think is going to be super beneficial for a lot of business owners.
Yeah, we're just scratching the surface of EOS here on this call. It's been amazing to hang out with you. I'm happy to go deeper with you, or any of your audience members that want to go a little deeper. Do a webinar from whatever you need from me, Jonathan. I'm here for you.
I think that's a great idea.
Good friend to me, and I'm excited to hang out with you a little more soon.
All right. Well, Lyn, we're at the end. So this is, we're going to do rapid fire questions. So I'm going to fire a couple questions. You got like 2 seconds. Don't think too hard. All
Let's
right.
go.
All right. Childhood hero.
Childhood hero. I grew up. I grew up a Dallas Cowboy fan. I loved Roger Staubach. That was sort of my hero. And I love the Los Angeles Dodgers. So the Steve Garvey, Ron Say, those kind of guys. My sports fans. But
Good answer.
honestly, my hero is probably my dad and you know my dad and his brothers and uncles were all cowboys and
That's awesome.
my great uncles in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, Cowboy Hall of Fame.
I love it. Beach or mountains?
That's tough. Mountains.
If you got to invite one famous person to dinner, they could be dead or alive. Who would it be?
Wow, famous person, dead or alive. Man, I think you gotta go. I think you gotta go with Jesus. I think you gotta have a beer or dinner with Jesus.
This has been a popular one lately, I've heard. Most adventurous thing Lyn's ever done.
Man, in my youth, I was pretty adventurous. I did things like launch one of the first online auctions. I quit a really, really good job to go out on my own and build something. It took a long time, Jonathan, but I'm doing exactly what I need to do. And about a year and a half ago, I sold my marketing agency, and that was my identity for 26 years. And I went out on this EOS adventure, and it's the best thing I've ever done in my life.
I'm so happy for you. I just told you the other day when I saw you, you got your pregnant glow like to you, this aura, because we've done many of these calls before you sold the agency, and you didn't have this glow to you, I assure you.
Yeah, I'm doing what I love. I'm doing it with people that I love. I'm having a major impact on people's businesses and on their lives. I'm being appropriately compensated, and I have time for other things. So
I love it.
I'm truly living the EOS life.
And the last question, one of my favorites, is: does Lyn believe in aliens?
The universe is a huge, huge place. I would have a hard time not believing that there's other forms of life out there, and there's billions and billions and billions of stars and planets. Saw a video this week of one of the new telescopes out there that saw some city lights on a planet some trillion miles away. I think it's entirely possible or even probable that there's life outside of the Earth.
Yeah, hopefully they got to be something smarter than us. Like we do some dumb shit here.
It's still pretty remarkable, though. I mean, it's still pretty remarkable that we're floating around on a rock out there, and quite frankly, you and I are sitting here speaking on technology over the internet. We have video webcams. I still find all of this just mind blowing that we even exist.
We're living in, I think, one of the greatest times in history. So when I think back of what technology was like when you were growing up, and then you're a couple years older than me, and then when I was growing up, we've seen it all. Like we'll see TV shows, and they've got the cords attached to their phones. Or I saw a TV show today. We're watching young Sheldon, and Georgie got a beeper, and so I had to pause it and explain to the kids what a beeper was, and they were like, so it went off, and then you had to go to stop at a gas station to go to a payphone to call someone. Yes, doesn't that make all the sense in the world?
That is 100% correct. Yeah, we grew up in it. We grew up in an interesting time, and we grew up in sort of the technological revolution. I mean, I lived in a small farmhouse in Montana, and we had a 2-party line. So you could pick up the wall phone in your house, and the neighbor could be using the phone. So you'd have to hang up and wait for them to get done. And our phone number was 2725.
4 numbers.
4 numbers. Yep.
Wow.
If you dialed 2725, you got us. And we didn't have area codes or even prefixes that we had to dial in our town.
That is wild.
Yeah. Rode horse to school uphill both ways in the snow. Right?
Lyn's 180. He's just got.
Hey, I'm 54. Take it easy.
You look great for 54, Lyn. And I think, the new career change is a big part of it. So, well, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for sharing your knowledge of EOS. And we'll do something soon. We'll do a webinar so you can dive deeper into it.
Yeah, I'd love to come back on and talk about exit planning and talk about how exit planning is just really, really great business strategy. We can talk about all the, I'm sure there's a lot of venture capital money out there in the home service world right now, and I'd love to protect your audience from some of those devaluations that happen when the VCs come in and look at your business. So
I'd love
I want to help you build really, really strong businesses, and EOS is just such a big part of that. But I'm also a certified exit planner and have some really good skills there that can help you increase your multiples in your business.
I'd love to have you back. Lyn, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, buddy.